Welcome to Pop History. This episode looks at the story behind some of the popular events from November 1980. Let's get started. On November 6th, the United States announced a ban on the importation of tuna. Yes, I said tuna. In addition to other products from Ecuador. Claiming that American fishermen were within their territorial waters, the South American country had seized several U.S. fishing boats. Though the U.S. craft were more than 12 miles off the coast, Ecuador claimed that its territorial waters actually extended 200 miles into the Pacific Ocean. That ban lasted until 1983. November 4th saw the beginning of what was called the Reagan Revolution, when former Hollywood actor Ronald Reagan defeated incumbent Jimmy Carter in the 1980 presidential election. Reagan, the former Republican governor of California, won in a landslide victory, showing voters discontent with Carter's economic policies, high unemployment, stagflation, and the handling of the Iran hostage crisis. 52 Americans still remain captive in Iran over a year after they had been taken hostage. Throughout his campaign, Reagan touted his plan called Reaganomics, which included decreased taxes, fewer regulations, increased free trade, a balanced budget, and increased defense spending to rebuild the nation's military, which had fallen behind in the Cold War arms race. In the election, Reagan won all but 6 states, with Carter's 49 electoral votes the second lowest percentage in the history of U.S. elections. At the time, Reagan, 69, was the oldest person to be elected to the office of president. In a wise move, on November 8th, plans to restart the Humboldt Bay nuclear power plant near Eureka, California, were canceled after an earthquake struck off the coast of California. The 7.3 magnitude quake, which struck at approximately 2:30 a.m., caused damages of more than $2 million. Though the plant operated in the 1960s and 70s using both nuclear energy and fossil fuels to generate electricity, the nuclear wing of the power plant was shut down in 1976 due to safety concerns because of the risk of seismic activity in the region. The November 8th quake reaffirmed those fears. On November 15th, NBC's Saturday Night Live began its 6th season without producer Lorne Michaels, employing an entirely new cast of mostly unknown comics, as well as a new team of writers. With Michaels gone for the year, the season ended up being one of the worst, with the show receiving its lowest ratings ever. As a result, most of all the cast except for Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo were fired at the end of the season. On November 19th, CBS banned an advertisement featuring 15-year-old model Brooke Shields posing in a pair of skin-tight Calvin Klein jeans. In the ad, as the camera pans slowly across her body, her singular yet seductive line is spoken. You want to know what comes between me and my Calvins? Nothing. The 30-second commercial caused an uproar over the sexual innuendo that was obvious in the teen's performance. Shields, who was out of the country when the ad debuted, was not immediately aware of the controversy. The commercial was eventually banned in several other countries. On November 21st, a television audience of 83 million viewers in the US and almost 350 million worldwide tuned in to finally find out who shot JR on the hit primetime soap opera Dallas. J.R. Ewing, played by actor Larry Hagman, was one of the most loved characters on the show, despite being an egotistical, manipulative, womanizing character. In his pursuit of more wealth and power, JR had made many enemies, and in what would become television's most famous cliffhanger, audiences watched as Ewing was shot twice by an unseen assailant in the season 2 finale. Viewers were forced to wait over the next 8 months, wondering if JR were dead, and speculating about what character had killed him. Odds makers even created a set of odds for the possible suspect, and many placed bets on the outcome. To maintain secrecy over the shooter's real identity, every actor and crew member, even Hagman himself, was filmed firing the weapon used by the assailant. The phrase, "Who shot JR?" followed by "I shot JR," soon adorned popular t-shirts. When the episode titled "Who Done It" aired, many were surprised when it was revealed that Kristen Shepard, JR's sister-in-law and former mistress, was the one who had pulled the trigger. On November 25th, boxer Sugar Ray Leonard reclaimed his title after a second fight against World Boxing Council champion Roberto Duran. Duran had defeated Leonard earlier in the year, on June 20th, to win the title. The long-awaited rematch, which was held in New Orleans, appeared to be a mismatch, with Sugar Ray dominating and even taunting his opponent. The fight concluded early at the end of the 8th round, when Duran suddenly quit the fight, famously saying, "No mas." The pair would meet one more time in 1989 during a highly disappointing bout. On November 27th, the U.S. sitcom Bosom Buddies debuted on the ABC television network. The show is about two single men who disguise themselves as women to live in an affordable apartment building in New York City that only allowed female tenants. This was the first major role for actor Tom Hanks, who co-starred in the show, playing character Kip Wilson. Though the show featured offbeat humor and frequent improvisation between Hanks and co-star Peter Scolari, the show slowly dropped in ratings and was canceled after 2 seasons. That wraps up our look at pop history from November 1980. Keep an eye out for our next episode coming soon when we look back at December of that year. For now, as always, thank you for watching and joining us in this stroll through our memories of 1980.